We'll do it live. Okay.
Mr. Barrett,
Anthony,
you know we're talking today?
I know what we're talking today.
We're talking jazz.
The real jazz.
Clearwater Jazz Holiday.
We are fortunate enough today to have the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer of Clearwater Jazz, Mr. Steve Weinberger.
I'm the fortunate one.
Nice.
I've had the privilege of working with this man for the last 15 years. And this organization has grown so much and so wide. And that is largely due to a lot of his leadership.
Really?
Yes,
Okay, let's get into it.
absolutely.
When did you join on with Clearwater Jazz?
Oh, so we're going down memory lane. That's what we're
No,
doing.
we got to start here.
So
to
I need
get
to lie.
there.
I need to lie down for this. Okay, is that what's happening? It's been a minute. I think in my other life I was a lawyer and I practiced law with the Johnson Pope law firm, and I had an opportunity to join the board of directors. At the time, the leadership of the board, which is the Clearwater Jazz Holiday Foundation. It's a nonprofit that produces the festival. And they were looking for someone with a legal background to join the board. And one of my senior partners at the time got the email, and I was in. I thought it was, I didn't know much about it at the time. It was probably back in 2000, 2001, I think. And just haven't looked back since. It's been an amazing journey. Just reflecting as I'm talking to you now over the years, it's one of those things where I don't even know where to start. But I know it's been an amazing journey.
When you started in with this, did you have a music background? Were you in entertainment in any capacity?
No, not really. I mean, I'm a huge music enthusiast. I love music. I love everything about music. I love, having now spent so many years with the organization. Looking back, I know it's been a really big outlet for me. I love being part of a group of people that are doing for the community in the way we are, creating experiences for people to share. The live music experience has been very meaningful to me. In college and before, I would go to a lot of live shows. So I dabble with a few instruments, but I'm not, my wife tells me to go in my office and shut the door type of thing. I just like hanging out with the cool kids, and music's just always been a big part of my life. And at the time, I think joining the board then, I grew up in Northeast St. Pete. So I didn't really have a lot of roots in North Pinellas County. And I had heard about the festival. But I viewed it kind of selfishly as a networking opportunity at the time. Young lawyer, cut my teeth, and this is a great way of meeting a lot of people who are already involved with the tradition. Because at the time, the tradition started in 1980, so it was well established, well known, and it proved to be true. It was a great opportunity for me to network and meet a lot of the local businesses that were involved, and then figure out what impact I could make.
I have to
When
say,
we go
though,
with the history, how long has Clearwater Jazz Holiday been around?
Well, Clearwater Jazz Holiday was formed in 1980. That was the first show. And I know you know a little bit about the history of Jazz Holiday, but it was at the time, these early organizers, it was a chamber initiative designed to bring tourists to Clearwater and Clearwater Beach. And that's what it was. That's why it's called the holiday. In fact, because it was at the time targeting European vacationers.
Really?
And so what do Europeans call their vacation?
Holiday.
Holiday.
Yeah.
So the name stuck, and to this day, the element of economic impact to our community is still rooted in core values of the foundation. So it's something we take very seriously, as not only the cultural impact now it's become, but the economic impact to the area. And so, early organizers, music has changed dramatically over the years. We were talking about that a little bit before we started this today.
Yeah.
To their credit, they were big straight ahead jazz aficionados, and they brought some heavy hitters in the early 80s and even to the late 80s. Big names, came through Clearwater Jazz Holiday, and it didn't take long to
No, I was there.
You were there.
I was there. Now, I will say this, and because we are talking about the history, the evolution of Clearwater Jazz. I moved to Clearwater when it was in its beginning stages, okay? And I was brought there by my family to go see it. At that time, 13, 12 years old, I was not into jazz music. I was listening to Motley Crue. But over the
Kickstart
years,
your heart.
yeah, absolutely.
Kickstart your heart.
Over the years, it went from being your parents' type of jazz to more mainstream contemporary jazz, right? And when you have people that in a million years you'd never think would go to a jazz festival, and you run into them at that show every year, you think, wow, the reach is pretty far. It's not just a jazz crowd. This is not your parents' elevator music anymore.
No, it's not.
I always refer back to one performance that sticks out in my mind that was just, it didn't just blow me away, it blew everybody in the park away, was the year Etta James played. I had no idea who she was. And this lady was a legend in her own time, but I had never heard her because that wasn't my lane. When you're younger, you're a little closed off to like what you listen to. I'm only listening to this, whatever it is. But I remember when the park, right before she went on, it was a Sunday, and whoever the bands were before her, the park emptied out, like when they were done. And I thought, well, let's stick around for this Etta lady, whoever. And I remember the lady sitting next to me was like, oh, you don't know who she is, you're in for a big treat. And it was one of those times where I was busy doing something, and then I turned around and the park was full all the way up to the library. The whole park was shoulder to shoulder room packed. And the lady came out and she did her set, and I was an instant fan. Like, I literally went the next day and started buying her CDs. But there were so many other people that had that same feeling as me. As over the years, as the jazz holiday has evolved into that contemporary space, there are artists that I think broke boundaries in audiences that didn't know of them before. Trombone Shorty came through and killed it that first time he played. And I think he went on before Kenny G the first time, and he upstaged Kenny G. The whole crowd was on their feet. He was going through the crowd, playing. And it was just one of those nights where, again, you leave and you go, what did I just witness? That was awesome. And then you go and you get the music, you get the CDs and the records. But when you came in to today, what have you seen with that evolution?
Oh, it's been so fun. I mean, for me personally, and also to be involved with the business of the music and the programming, very exciting for me. It's a big part of why I love being part of Jazz Holiday and being part of that evolution.
Because you're a fan too.
Oh, I'm such a fan. And there's so many bands that I'm just so proud of being part of bringing them to the Clearwater Jazz Holiday and introducing new audiences like you're talking about. I hear lots of stories, similar stories about that, of people who come and walked away with something that they did not expect. I know you have too.
Which is why I'm still with Clearwater Jazz Holiday. I mean, I was wrestled into going. At that time, I was very busy. This was 15 years ago. Hampton, our friend, did media. And he, for years, begged me, come do this with me, come. And I said, there's no way I can do it. I don't have the time. I don't have the effort. And then one particular year, 2009, I had time. And to shut him up, this is the guy down the street. He said, hey, man, you got it. I was like, you know what? I got to get him off my back. Okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And I went. And I was there to work. media. My introduction to Gary House is another story. We'll save that for another time. But just the environment, the atmosphere, the people, it was an altering experience. It just was. And we're not even talking about the music yet. I'm just talking about Clearwater Jazz Holiday as an event, as an experience. And it was just gut wrenching. It's like, whoa, we got your attention, and it grabbed the hold of you and kept on.
Yeah.
When I left, when the 4 days were over, I was driving home. Hamp was in his car, I was in mine. And I literally pulled off the road, called him on my cell phone, and said, brother, I got to just say one thing. Thank you for making me do this. And I haven't missed a beat since.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, here's what I'll say about the music. All right, so we talked a little bit about the 80s, straight ahead, big straight ahead names. The 90s, smooth jazz becomes really popular. We begin to program a lot of smooth jazz. I come in, you were asking when I got in until now, so that's 2000 about. It was really exciting for me to begin to see that contemporary switch where you have a really nice balance between classic and contemporary and fusion, instrumental jam. Right around some of the years, like the late 2000s, we start seeing like bands like Soul Live and then a little bit more mainstream, like Little Feat. A lot of New Orleans music starts becoming very popular and integrated into it, and you could feel it. One of the things that was great from the inside looking out was it was bringing more attention to our mission, which in addition to sustaining the festival is to have a big cultural impact in the community through education programs, which we'll talk about, I'm sure.
Yes.
But the idea is the diversity brought a diverse audience, more people, more attention to the mission. We were able to still showcase a lot of jazz, but really the big breakout year for me along this journey was in 2012. It was the year we implemented the first paid ticket admission, because for many years the Jazz Holiday was free event. And as we grow, we wrestled really carefully with this, because as we have grown, it's really difficult to produce and present and grow with rising costs of infrastructure and artist costs, the caliber of what we were delivering, relying solely on grants and corporate partnerships.
Yes.
And so, but when we introduced that revenue, I mean, where else were you going to go for the price of a GA ticket? That was, I mean, even to this day, our lowest cost GA admission is $5. You can get into Clearwater Jazz Foundation. We'll talk about this, the price structure for today. Okay, so we'll get back to that. But my point is that year, we had Bonnie Raitt on Thursday night. We had the Avett Brothers on Sunday night. We had Esperanza Spalding on Saturday night.
And she killed it.
I mean, she did.
And so
Killed it.
that year for me was the beginning of a whole new world that had opened up to us, of sort of this evolution into what I think is more akin to like a New Orleans Jazz Fest vibe, where you really have something for everybody, but you still maintain that strong heritage of a platform to not only tell the world about what we're doing with jazz, jazz education, jazz history, but to provide performance opportunities for jazz musicians at Jazz Holiday. It became very colorful, and it just, from there on, it was a ride.
So I want to talk about 2 points, okay? One, I want to mention that what has actually, like we said earlier, Jazz Holiday, it sucks you in, The one thing that I have loved about this event every year, okay? Everybody that's there has been there for years and years, but everybody knows exactly what we need to do. Everybody knows who is in what spot, where they're supposed to be, and how they're supposed to do it.
You mean from like an operational standpoint?
From an operational standpoint. It is so organized, and the people come back every year, right? It's the same people that have been running it for years and years, that everybody knows their job. Everybody knows what to do. That is a well-oiled machine.
It takes it so seriously, right?
And it has to be. But, from an operational standpoint and from somebody in entertainment, and you run festivals and other things, when it's a disaster because everybody is not on the same page. The organization at that event is second to none.
Well, thank you.
It is always on it. Hampton ran the media for many, many years. And, there are people that didn't agree with his style and how he did it. But you know what? Every year we showed up, we knew exactly where to be, what to do, how to get things. I mean, like there was never a question. If we had a question, Hampton took care of it. But it was always, I think there was a little bit of chaos when y'all introduced that Art Unlimited, and they came in and started, doing the lights and hospitality and stuff like that. And the only reason why there was a little chaos is because when they came in,
You're talking about the Art Institute?
the Art Institute,
okay.
yeah. When they did come in, you were adding a component to something that was in place for so long that nobody knew how to adjust for it. That was the only thing. Now, second point I'm going to make is, you got to take the good and the bad. So, that year that you're talking about where they did implement the tickets, but we had Bonnie Raitt.
Yeah.
Bonnie Raitt was the only artist, and I've been saying this for years. Sorry, Bonnie. For years, Bonnie Raitt is the only artist in all the years of me being involved with the media that gave us, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. Don't make eye contact with her. Don't talk to her. Like, she was just so restrictive of that.
From the media standpoint.
Absolutely. I mean, we could, a lot of them have like, you can only photograph the first three
for sure.
songs.
Right, yeah.
She was the first three songs, and you could only take a picture of her left side. Like, it was so restrictive. Now, I'm not making that a negative standpoint. What it is that everybody else has been awesome. All the other artists, every artist, they have no problem working with everybody there. In the years past, if you remember, to the right side of the stage, when they were done, they'd always go over and sign the posters, take photos.
Yeah.
Every artist has always been so cool, so happy to be there. Like, they really, even when you're backstage and the chaos is going on and they have to walk from, point A to the stage.
Absolutely.
It's still, everybody knows where they are. Everybody knows what to do. No, I've never seen anything not done perfect.
Well, I'd love to touch on a couple of those things. I mean, the
Bonnie Raitt's the only one. She killed us, man.
Oh, Bonnie.
Sorry. She squashed us, man.
And you see different styles with different artists. But I'll say, on your point about the organization of the festival from an operational standpoint, we're so blessed to have this long time family of volunteers that we refer to as lead operational volunteers. Mark was the chair of that group for several years, called the Jazz Force. Jazz Force, proudly wearing the short. And this is a group of about 60 people that operationally oversee maybe 1,000 plus people every year.
Every year.
And they've been in it. It's become just a big family. And then you see family members of those people getting more involved, their friends, and it just grows from there. And just volunteers that fill all the shifts from everything you can think of, from media to everything else. It's part of the success. It's a very special aspect of it. So that's a big part of it. But the other part of what you're talking about, that when you can create an environment, Tom Nurse, who's the head of manages our stage, he says, like, happy artists make good music, right? Yes. But it goes so much beyond that, because the advancing process, as you know, for any kind of big event starts many months before it. Oh, yeah. And it's all about communication, setting expectations, and so much time is put into that in the hopes that we achieve what you're saying, that by the time they get there, they're going to feel so comfortable that they will want to do those things. Now, the pandemic turned us all upside down with a lot of different things we needed to do. Yeah. And also from the standpoint of an artist's comfort, ability, I don't know if that's a word, to want to interact with people in that way changed because of health concerns. But before that time, I appreciate you bringing that up and saying that, because we work hard at it.
No, it's, again, I used to own Bourbon Street. We did a lot of live music there, and I brought in nationals, and nobody knows what goes into putting together an event. Okay. I used to say that our bar, our venue was an event factory because we'd have a concert on Friday night and then another concert Saturday night, and it was a completely different crowd, and as long as I had all our systems in place, everybody knew what their responsibility
Right.
was. You showed up, you knew your spot, you knew what you were to do. And, the wheel always turned. There was never a problem. But we did it, and we did it well because of systems in place. And Clearwater Jazz is the most together event that I have ever been part of
Man,
and
thank
attended.
you.
Well-
And again, like, Mark does stuff with his other entertainment company, and they're over in like Daytona Band Shell, right? You've done stuff there.
Yeah, and then of course downtown with Uptown Music and Arts Festival. But then I also had the Fox,
Yeah.
the jazz lounge there. And speaking as a former chairman for Jazz Force,
Mhm.
I had the privilege of, I guess the word would be leading a group of absolute consummate professionals of what they did.
Okay. You know what
That
I'm going to
was
say
incredible.
that Clearwater Jazz has, and it just came to my brain. When I look at what the problems are when I would go to other events, see, with Mayhem Magazine, I had to go and represent the magazine, the artist at other events around the state of Florida. And I will say that the one thing that Clearwater Jazz does not have, where everybody else fails, is too many chiefs, not enough Indians. When you go to an event, everybody thinks they are so much more important than they are. And at Clearwater Jazz, the team of volunteers, and that's exactly the word to use, volunteers, because they are, but they know their role. They know what they're supposed to do. They know what they're there for. They know, and they've been doing it for years and years. So that's why the team is as successful as it is in creating and putting on that event, because there's not too many chiefs and not enough Indians.
We work as a
Everybody
team.
there is
Yeah,
working as a
we
team.
We work as a team,
That's
even
why it's
in my
successful.
leadership role. I worked as a team. I was working with these people, not telling them what to do. I mean, when something needed to get done, whoever was there seeing it need to be get done did it.
Right.
Whether it was me or anybody else. There are no big I's and little U's in Clearwater Jazz.
Well, don't you think it's also the perspective of everyone understands what this is about?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we meet as a group with Jazz Force or with our board,
Right.
but it's all year long. I mean, it's monthly,
All
and
year
it's
round,
not
yeah.
only business.
No.
We have socials. We come to our events.
Yeah.
We celebrate the volunteers
Mhm.
at the events and their role, and they come to our outreach.
Yes.
I was hanging with a couple Jazz Force people last night at our weekly Jazz Jam that we're doing. I feel like by the time
Go to the Jazz Jam. It's cool.
by the time you get to the festival and you're talking about the execution of it, that has to feed into it.
Yes.
Just the work that we've invested in the human side of what
Yeah.
this is,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
has got to be part of that.
Because we're a family and we commune together. We literally do. And
And it
everybody
shows.
loves and respects.
And it
This is the God's honest truth. Everybody loves and respects each other. There's no two ways about it. Every opportunity that I've been given, oddly enough, think about it, it's always Steve with that phone call going, "Hey man, I want to talk to you about something." But the reality of it is that it is that simple. When I show up to Clearwater Jazz Holiday, no matter what we're doing, whether we're doing one of our monthly events, whether it be High Note, whether it be a jazz, whatever, we're there to support whatever it is by all means.
Right.
Doesn't really matter. And
Yeah.
we just operate that way.
Well, you had said that you felt like Bonnie Raitt in that first year of setting up tickets instead of it being free. That was a big turning point for them. There's, like I said, there's a lot of artists that have stuck out for me where I felt like we went off jazz, like traditional jazz, and appealed towards more of an audience. And the one year that sticks out for me is Morris Day and Sheila Easton came through.
Yeah.
And that was, my first thought was, how is that really going to play into jazz? Like, I thought that was a little more R&B-ish. And it really did. I mean, it just worked well with the whole lineup for that day. So one of the things you had also mentioned was events throughout the year. Clearwater Jazz Holiday is a great weekend in October, but the Jazz Force
Yes.
and the Jazz, what's the
Foundation.
organization? The Jazz Foundation.
Yeah. So
You guys have events going on leading up to it, and then all year long to support it.
We do.
And I want to make sure that we discuss, because it's not just the events and the music. Those events and those music, they create revenue that goes into the charity events for children learning.
Yeah.
Right? Talk to us about that. How did that become the driving force of Clearwater Jazz's outreach?
Man, okay, so before these monthly concerts that we're talking about, we would sort of gather our family of support, corporate partners, members of our High Note Society around these events that we referred to as High Note events.
Mm-hmm.
And so these were events where people who just were involved with us would come during like the work week, like a happy hour, and we would do one every month, and they were great. We would have some form of music kind of going in the background, people mingling. They would be at partner hotels or restaurants, and that's the early start to all this. Okay, and that was great. It was a good way of connecting every month. In fact, my early time on the board, that's where I found my thing. You know, I would be part of trying to figure out how to make those better. You know,
More of a networking scenario.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Remember, when I joined the board, It was like, I'm a young lawyer trying to meet people, and what better way than just bringing everyone to the same room and in a relaxed environment with music, and it was great.
Live music, by the way.
And there was a lot of value in that too for the partners that were involved with us, because you're a business owner, a multi-business owner, the value of just connecting with people in that type of an environment it's not like it's very low pressure. You know what I mean? It's everyone's there to have fun, and it's a great cause, and it worked really well for networking. So that's what that was. The High Note Society that's what that was. And right up until, I guess, the pandemic was the first year where there was a big change to that. And what happened was everything shut down in the world. None of the musicians that we were working with were able to work or do anything. We were stuck with the possibility of the festival being canceled for the first time. Because of the pandemic, which it ultimately was in 2020 for the first time. Yeah. And then what do we do? Like every other business who's trying to figure out, how to manage this.
How do we go forward?
And I'm really proud looking back at particularly the last 5 years, which not only dealt with the management of the pandemic, but the displacement from Coachman Park to keep the tradition going in Baycare Ballpark, ultimately to come back and experiment at the sound, and then back to our roots format, which I know we're going to get to. But on the issue of these monthly concerts, it's sort of like, what could we do? And so we started this idea, which now has become a regular part of Clearwater Jazz Holiday programming, called the CJH Presents Music Series. It replaced the High Note Society social by creating concerts that were, at that time, giving musicians work in a safe environment, outdoors, socially distanced. We did some crazy things.
We did some great stuff.
And it was in a short time frame between when we learned the festival was getting canceled. It was like the summer of 2020 through December. Man, I don't know how many events we did. It was insane.
It was.
We did events. We went out to hotel partner on Clearwater Beach, and we ripped down the back of a pool cabana. They did a stage facing the beach and lined up lounge chairs out socially distanced, and people came. The restaurant would bring food and drinks to them. Musicians were making money again and performing. We went on the rooftop, open air at Evie's, looking at the Intercoastal. Station Square Park in downtown Clearwater. No one was doing anything in Station Square Park. We brought 60 table rounds, a portable bathroom, open air, and we were just going.
You had to adjust.
We were going. And so instead of doing one giant festival, which brought thousands of people, we did 1,000 little concerts that brought people.
Several hundred at a time.
And at the time, people were in tears, because no one was seeing live music, and you really appreciated what we do at that time. The people that say, they come out and they're like, man, I didn't know how much I missed just being with people and being with people in a music format. And it got me thinking. You say, why are you involved in all this? That's why I'm involved in this. And it was beautiful.
And it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy because you have to understand these venues that he's talking about. We had to create that. Okay, on the beach, we had a truck, a flatbed truck with all these chairs that had to be set out on the sand, umbrellas, the whole nine, and understand that's a lot of work. And I don't know if you've ever carried heavy stuff on sand, but it's not easy, okay? Well, at the end of the show, when it's all over, we got to put all that stuff back.
Yeah.
The value of having that jazz force.
That jazz force made it possible for us to transform every venue that we were able to get to put these events on. These people came out, put in their time, their sweat, their effort, and their love. And that experience was truly appreciated by everybody who took advantage of it.
Yeah.
And that was all
It was
innovative thinking by the leadership.
We got a new stream of revenue with ticket revenue for these smaller events. We're unlike other nonprofits. We don't have a big like black tie gala type of thing. We rely on the festival, grants, corporate partnerships, high note society memberships, and these concerts are fundraisers for the foundation to sustain the festival and deliver the outreach. So of course, when we resumed with a big concert at the end of the year, we couldn't keep up the pace with delivering one of these every other week. But it became a replacement now because now we're slowly have a combination of outdoor and indoor venues. We're at the Floridian in downtown St. Pete, Central Park Performing Arts Center in Largo. We've got one at the Palladium in St. Pete in August.
Yes.
Station Square Park, we still do. We do Ebby's on the rooftop. And so our corporate partners, our High Note Society members, invited guests, volunteers, people now come. Yeah, it's a ticketed event, but it's also a live. Before it was networking and there's some music.
Right.
Now it is, we are showcasing music in our backyard, many of which we don't have that many stages. I mean, we have 3 stages now at Jazz Holiday, which we'll talk about.
Yes.
But what a great way to begin to create performance opportunities for local musicians and also young musicians, which is a big part of our outreach, who are playing in front of audiences with original music in many cases, or playing with more established players. And what value is there? Or how, there's so much value there
is
for young musicians to play with more established players.
And with that, why don't you go right into why Clearwater Jazz Holiday exists in the first place? The programs that it supports, the outreach that we've got in the community. Discuss some of that.
Yeah, I mean, so to celebrate and promote the art form of jazz, that's why it exists. And it does it through music appreciation and instructional programs. It does it through performance opportunities like we were just discussing. It does it through a lot of online educational resources and special funding, scholarships and grants to music programs. There's so much going on there. When I joined, it was funding. It was, we're going to give money to this band program who's doing this great thing, or this high school jazz band program. Since I've been involved, the education and outreach has become the poster of why. And it's been so amazing.
Yes,
The 2 main flagship appreciation programs are the History of Jazz Outreach Program, which has reached 34,000 students since 2011 in 60 Bay Area schools. An interactive history of jazz presentation set to music where mostly elementary and middle school students are gaining a knowledge about the art form and hopefully inspiring them to play an instrument. But more exciting than that is the My Journey with Jazz program, which goes into neighborhood family centers and other organizations like Boys and Girls Clubs, Arts for Life Academy. And it is a game we created that inspires kids to learn about jazz history. They compete with each other by listening to clues and meeting professional musicians that come in. They learn about instruments. The idea is by the time they get to middle school, we want them to pick up an instrument so that they become a player or make music a part of their life. And it's awesome. And then once they have done that, we have our Young Lions program. And the Young Lions program is connecting local professional musicians, university educators with band directors and their students throughout the Bay Area and beyond, because we're in Sarasota now, Manatee. And the idea is, how can we provide meaningful instructional opportunities and funding for those programs and those students, and then performance opportunities, lastly, through our Give Them a Stage program, to say, come on out, come to our weekly jazz jam, come do an opening set at our CJH Presents events, come to the festival. And we provide paid performance gigs for young musicians. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk about this, but when you talk about how the outreach has evolved, it has evolved as much as the festival.
Yes.
In the years I've been involved, and it's super exciting.
I want you to cover this is another thing that came out of the pandemic.
Okay.
They came up with a program where they created these instructional, videos that were sponsored by different organizations and partners and what have you. Free online. They exist to this very day. Talk about
There were hundreds. I mean,
Instructional videos.
So at the time we were talking about musicians don't have work. So we wanted to do something meaningful, and if you can't perform, we created some place to perform, but there's so many musicians that weren't doing anything.
Yeah.
We said that is a wealth of information. Let's figure out what we can do with it. And that's what we did. We already had our Young Lions program. So it became the Young Lions Jazz Master virtual sessions, where we created live interactive programs and sessions on every topic you could think of, from jazz history to instrument-specific instructional things. So if you go online now on our education page and you click on the studio, it archives hundreds of videos we created that were free workshops, for lack of a better term.
Yep.
And now
Exactly
they
what
exist for the world for free. We put it out to all the band directors we're working with, so that while they were having problem bringing their band together, now they have educational content. And it's everything from beginner to intermediate to advanced music theory, trumpet, trombone, rhythm section stuff. And then our great education partner, Frank Williams.
Frank Williams.
Do you know Frank Williams? He's
Professor. Yeah, Professor Frank.
He's in his 70s now. He was a longtime
Are these instrument instructions?
they're instrument
So
instructions.
if I want to learn how to play flute, I can go there and see, and there'll be
You can
flute
go.
instructions.
Now, there's not one for flute, but we should do one for flute. But
You know what I'm saying.
There was one for
Violin,
trumpet. You can go there and you can just literally, there's a section on trumpet and a section on saxophone.
Yep.
And you click on it and you can see everything you wanted to know. And it's all the people in our own backyard and some beyond, some
Yes.
educators. We had people like Wycliffe Gordon tuning in on doing this. Scotty Barnhart, who leads the legendary Count Basie Orchestra, did a 100-year history in 2 parts of the trumpet.
Nice.
I mean, there's so much content out there. Frank Williams, though, this guy, he is the best, and he is a big part of the development of our outreach. We started what's called the Stop Time series with Frank Williams, and it's the human side of personalities in jazz history and places. So it is a video history archive that complements our history of jazz program in the schools. So after we leave, you send the link to the teachers, and they can follow it up with a story about Louis Armstrong, about Buddy Bolden, about Lester Young, Etta James. You talk about Sarah Vaughan, or places throughout the country that were instrumental in the development of jazz. It's super cool. So that's the whole story behind the online resources, and we try to continue that.
So with the outreach and the instructional stuff for the kids, the school, is there a jazz fantasy camp?
Yeah, there is.
Where you're taking big names and connecting them with kids to play like an event or a this guy.
So yeah, there is. So we've done a lot with trying to expand the Young Lions program itself, and so we have a big event every year. For many years, it was at the Murray Theater at Ruth Eckerd Hall in the adjoining classrooms. We converted it into a youth jazz festival for the first time this year in Largo Central Park, where we used some of the facilities around it for part performance, part instruction, and workshops, where all the trumpets go over here, the saxophones go here, rhythm sections here. You bring in a lot of professional musicians, and there's instructional opportunity, there's performance opportunity, and then that complements our visits into the schools with them. So there's the Young Lions Youth Jazz Festival, and then for the first time ever this year, we've done the Young Lions Summer Jazz Camp that culminated with this amazing concert.
Yep.
And this year it happened at Gibbs High School. We had a bunch of kids from all over the Bay Area, Tampa, Pinellas, And it's kind of like an all-star kind of thing of people coming together for just some really high-level learning. And it's awesome. I mean, I was at our Jazz Jam last night, and there's a local musician that was there, established player, and he was watching. We had some of the people we scholarship that have been coming out to this Jazz Jam, which I guess I should mention that every week in downtown Clearwater at this bar restaurant called the Nash Keys. It's a dueling piano bar from 6 to 9. We do a weekly Jazz Jam where we have a house set of young musicians that we support. And then a lot of the young lions and more established players of all ages come out, sign up, you play, and everyone there just watches. And
So it's like an open mic.
It's open mic night for jazz, and vocalists come out too. And it's the coolest thing. And one of the guys last night, he's like, "Man, these guys are playing at such a high level. You guys are doing such a good job with it," and it made me so happy, to see that, and to see these kids coming out. There's not a lot of jazz jam concepts where you have that blending of generations, and I hope we can continue that.
We will.
Yeah.
Because, I did not know about that. And so now some of the people that we do know, we need to get them out there so they can interact with the kids.
Absolutely.
Okay. One of the things that Mark learned when I had Bourbon Street, we had a guy named Dana Piper, who's pretty famous in the Tampa area. He was associated with John Oliva and the Sabotage Band. Okay. And Dana used to run an open mic or an open jam at Bourbon Street. And the thing was, not just with my reach with Mayhem Magazine, not just my Rolodex of friends. Dana had a very, very big Rolodex of friends. And the people that I knew that gave me access to their Rolodex of friends. At any given point, you could come in to Bourbon Street on an open jam night, and you would never know who was on that stage.
Yeah, awesome.
There was always somebody big sitting in playing. And you'd get there and you'd have to, you scratch your eyes, you'd be like, is that really the guy from playing bass? Is that really the guy from playing keys? And one of the best compliments that I could have ever heard in a long time, we were doing our podcast with Michael Allman. And he had said that he was moving to Florida. He was moving to Sarasota. And he came down, and one of the guys on his trip down said, "You have to go to Newport Richie to meet this guitar player, Mark Shane." So he was on his way to move to Sarasota where the other Allman people were. And he stopped in Newport Richie to meet Mark Shane, who was going to be his guitar player, which ended up being his best friend now. And he never left Newport Richie because he loved it. Him and Mark became like best friends instantly. But the first night that he showed up, he wasn't even in town for like an hour. And Mark took him to my place and showed up at Bourbon Street. Now here I am. I come out and they say to me, "Hey, Michael Allman's on stage, playing with Mark Shane and this one and this one." And I'm like, Greg Allman's kid? That's how I go out and I meet him. But what a huge compliment, to know that my place was when big names came into town. They, their friend said, "Hey, come on, I got to take you to Bourbon Street."
Huge. It's such a great feeling.
And that's what that open jam was, Another person that was sitting in local open jams that was just an amazing talent, Natalie DiPergola.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's the best.
She
grew up around our family too.
She did, and I met her and her mother. Kelly is one of the sweetest ladies, but I met them when Nat was just this little girl playing drums, and the sticks were bigger than her. Like I couldn't even imagine, the talent at that age, for most kids. She had it. And she went out and played all around Tampa, sitting in with bands, she was taking lessons from professional people. John Spinelli really, really took her under his wing and helped her. But,
what it's all about.
That's what it takes. The children are the future of what we're doing, right?
Well, Clearwater Jazz does that because if you look and see the talent that has been touched and affected by Clearwater Jazz, people like a Kyle Schroeder,
BK
people
Jackson.
like a
BK Jackson, right out of
people like an
Lake.
Eric Darius.
Yeah.
I mean, these are now world-class musicians.
Yeah.
And all of them can go back and point to
And-
Clearwater
And
Jazz
BK,
Holiday.
when I met him, he was a kid.
Yeah.
You know, like he was playing the Black Heritage Festival with Eric Darius in
Right.
Coachman Park, and he was fresh out of high school.
Okay.
You know, then he wakes up one day and bam, he's touring with Prince. Come
Yeah.
on.
And
amazing,
that is
you know?
what I think one of the great things, other than just the outreach and the community effect of Clearwater Jazz Holiday,
Yeah.
is the effect that it has on these young people who may have never picked up an instrument and suddenly discovered something in themselves. Or the kid that was incredibly talented but didn't have the opportunity, the financing, or any of the things that it takes now that these programs are no longer in schools.
They are not.
Clearwater Jazz Holiday has opened doors. And one of the questions I get to ask people anytime I'm in front of an audience, I ask them, what is the price of a dream? Okay? It's priceless,
Mhm.
but there's definitely a cost to a broken dream.
Mhm.
Okay? Clearwater Jazz Holiday creates dreams in places where they could not dream before because of opportunity.
Preach it, Mr. Perry.
Yeah,
Preach it.
preach it.
That's what
Preach
I
it.
do. Okay? But I'm a part of this organization for that reason.
Yeah. And it is. And, you know, I remember when I was a kid back in the 70s, everybody had to take band.
Band or
It
something.
was a class you had to take. And, you know, then your parents had to sit through, you know, 40 kids butchering Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. But they don't have that anymore.
No.
And they have done away with a lot of the programs.
Absolutely.
So that outreach that Clearwater Jazz has with the children is invaluable.
I so appreciate that, and I see it. Particularly with my journey with jazz program, these kids have never heard jazz. They have never seen an upright bass. They have
Yeah.
they don't know different types of saxophones.
Yeah.
They don't know a trumpet from a flugelhorn.
Right.
When they are done, they do. And in addition to that, they're walking out, participating in a performance back for their families, holding a microphone with confidence, talking about, I mean, what other community has an art week? We call them junior jazz masters when they graduate from the program. By the time they get to middle school, not only are they familiar with all the different types of a saxophone, but they know who Marion Makeba is, and Tom Jobim,
And they've got,
and, and Louis Armstrong. And there are hundreds of them that are graduating through this that are hopefully inspiring them, even if it's not to play, just to make music a part of their life in some way. That's the goal.
Well, I will tell you one thing that's disheartening, okay? Because I am involved in the music community and have been for a long time. One of the worst things that I hear, and it totally deflates my sail every time I hear it, you know, our society has changed. They thought that music was not that important. They removed it from schools. If you are a musical person and you have a child, chances are you're going to do what you can to foster and develop their talents, okay? But I meet kids all the time, especially at my son's school. There's one of his friends, and he is into the drums. And it's like, okay, I mean, this kid is telling me, because he watches everything on YouTube.
Mhm.
All these kids live on YouTube, right? So they are getting those little educational parts. But, you know, when you turn around, you go, well, do you have any drums at home? What kind of a kit do you play? And the parents are behind them and they go, oh, no, we're not doing that. And you go, really? Or same thing with a guitar or, you know, a saxophone. It's not that the kids don't want, it's the parents don't want.
Yeah.
And you're not bringing that noise into my house. Okay, every musician started out bad once. That's heart wrenching when you know that you have kids that want to learn and the parents are stopping that because they don't
tough.
want
That's tough.
the noise. You know, so many years back, School of Rock started popping up around the Bay Area, and a lot of my musician friends at first were making fun of it. No, I would never send my kid there. And then they all took jobs doing lessons at School of Rock. So, you know, it is what it is now, but it's kind of one of the few outlets for kids to go and learn. You know,
Now-
it really is.
He's talking about the programs. He hasn't yet mentioned the amount of scholarships that have been given to these kids and the amount of top grade instrumentation that's been provided for them. Please talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, that is a tough thing,
Yeah.
you know.
It's hard to hear,
It's hard
you
to
know,
hear.
when we're in this.
We're
business,
trying, and there's so much more, you know, that we are going to do and can do. With the special funding aspect of what we did used to start with, we would give money to a jazz program that existed somewhere or a high school band program. And we still do that to some respect, but we have started investing in people more with individual scholarships to send them to jazz camps. So we sent several students to FSU Jazz Camp. One student formed some really great bonds there. We just gave him a $10,000 4-year scholarship to FSU Music School. He was at the Jazz Jam last night. So good. And other scholarships to graduating seniors who want to pursue a career in either music or music education. So special funding, and we try to grow that every year based on our success and fundraising. How much can we give back? So it's a combination of investing in these programs that we're talking about that are appreciation, performance opportunities, instruction opportunities, or funding. You know, how can we grow those things? And it takes a village. I mean, we write a lot of grants for these programs from community organizations, the state of Florida, anywhere we can find it really that can help invest in not only helping grow the festival and keep it a big tradition, but the outreach for sure, huge. This year, you know, one of the things I think we should talk about this year is getting back to our roots with Jazz Holiday. We talked a little bit about the challenges, particularly in the last 5 years with evolution, but one of the things I think this is an opportunity to explain to an audience about what the format is for the festival this year and how it's designed to showcase all these things we're talking about, right? Can I do that? Yeah.
By all means, please.
I'm excited about
Whose
this
show
year.
is this?
I know, right? Sorry.
No, you know what?
It's your show.
I'll tell you the funny thing about what we do here is this is a unscripted, non-interview scenario. So we are here to talk about the things that we all want to discuss. So absolutely, man.
Well, I appreciate
I'm not
that.
cutting you off.
It's an opportunity.
It's a round table discussion.
I will tell you, one of the biggest challenges dealing with all of these things is educating the public on what we're going to look like, you know, in each year with all of the different locations and venues and the protocols from the pandemic. And it's like, it's been a race, a sprint through just how can we get through and keep this thing going. And we've done it.
Yes.
But it's becoming harder and harder. And this year, we tried to do this last year, but the hurricanes had a different story for us last year.
Two
So-
back to back.
So we are trying it again. And the idea is, how do we get back to the familiar and the history that you remember that is so important, connected to people again? And this back to our roots theme was at least our answer to taking advantage of a redesigned Coachman Park, but doing it in a way that feels like yesteryear, where people can again come and enjoy it in different ways. So yes, we have seats. You can sit in front of buy a seat in front of the stage. You can have the elaborate VIP like we do, which we take a lot of pride in, but you can bring a blanket and lawn chair again. And you can sit behind the reserved seats on the lawn. And the access point, we're talking about tickets, that's a $35 ticket to sit on the lawn with a blanket and lawn chair. Or the new redesigned park has this beautiful bluff that overlooks the waterfront and the green. You can pay $5 and you can get into the park and sit up on the bluff with a blanket and lawn chair. But every ticket point, whether you're a Sunset Bluff, a main lawn GA, a reserved seat, a VIP, has access to the festival. And the festival means there's the main stage headliners on the main stage. There's 2 big ones every night.
Right.
But then there are 2 side stages, which we have not done before. One is in the lower plaza, which is a stage. I mean, it's a nice stage, but it's going to create an intimacy. And we're bringing in, we have some local musicians, but we also have musicians we're bringing in. And then we have a stage that jets out into the pier along the water.
Pier stage.
The pier stage, which is super cool. It's ground level rugs, tent, Adirondacks, umbrellas, bar, and you can buy a drink and walk around the whole park now.
It's all wet zone.
It's a
just for
it's
Clearwater Jazz.
and the food trucks will be back. You know, it will be that feeling of community, accessibility, diversity in music, diversity in audience. There is something for everyone in that pre-party. This is the big thing for me, particularly being involved with the programming. One of the big challenges of having support acts on one big stage is a lot of people aren't funneling into the park until dinner time and later. And then you have support acts that are there and they're looking out at a sea of seats in some cases that aren't filled because either people are still, they're scrolling in or whatever. So my strong hope with this new idea of the main stages for the headliners, and these smaller stages create like a pre-party where you walk right up to the stage. There's no seats in front of these stages. On the pier, there's Adirondacks and stuff like that. But it's largely a mobile idea to try to create a festival movement where you can go right up and enjoy the intimacy of these bands and make every support band feel like a headliner, which is like a club feeling like you would have at Bourbon Street or something, and build communities of support around that. If you look at the lineup, there is some really good stuff on the side stages.
Yes, there is.
I can't. There's so many. On Thursday, which is a vibe of like smooth and funky jazz, and we have Tower of Power on that night. Randy Jacobs and Jenny Langer is on a side stage.
Yep.
Come on.
Yeah.
That's going to be blues. It's going to be awesome. We've got a whole Young Lions thing going on the pier that day with like past and present people who have been through our programs. On Friday, the Polyrhythmics are on that side stage, which is a great jam fusion jazz band from Seattle. I think they're from Seattle, coming in. So I'm really excited about Friday. Pete Carney is a director of jazz at the State College of Florida. His Orange Alert project is going to be leading into the Polyrhythmics. Saturday is all big band jazz out there, the Tomcats Jazz Orchestra, a Santana Soulfire tribute featuring jazz students. We got a lot of Young Lions stuff. And Sunday's taken on a life of its own at Jazz Holiday. It's been like, it's a younger demographic, I think. It's largely folk, Americana, soul, some jam. This year, Trampled by Turtles is an incredible progressive bluegrass Americana band. St. Paul and the Broken Bones is an awesome soul rock band from Alabama. I think they're from Alabama. So engaging with the audience. Have Gun Will Travel's coming in from, they're great, one of the cherished folk rock bands in the community. Phil Pate, great mandolin player. It's got this whole sort of like bluegrass kind of vibe. He's doing a trio. Sean Fody grew up around our Young Lions tradition. He's got a bunch of people. Alan Sams is going to be playing on Saturday.
He's one of ours.
Alan Sams is on our board, but he hasn't really had a Jazz Holiday featured set in a while.
Yeah.
He's a great keyboardist. He has some special friends that I'm not dropping just yet, but it's going to be on the pier, and anyone on the pier on Saturday is going to be really excited to be on the pier.
And blown away.
So
can you tell he's excited about this whole experience?
I feel like there's so much there that my strong hope is that the community responds to it in the back to our roots format, and we try to get back to the normalcy and the momentum we had before the pandemic, where we had to go to a baseball field or do all these different things. So I do appreciate the opportunity to talk about it. It's getting the word out about what people can expect.
Well, you just said, can you tell he's excited about it? There's so much that has gone into it that, you'd have to be excited about it.
It is. It's worthy.
One of the things that I always laughed at was people complained like, oh, they went to tickets, or, oh, they have seats now. Back in the day, nothing was worse than showing up to see your artist that you came to see, and there were people with blankets just
take up like
and they're saving spots, and they have big neon flags in the air so their friends could find them, and you're like, can I put my chair there? And they'd be like, no, you can't sit here. And it's golly. So when Clearwater Jazz went to seats, even though some people complained about it, I was like, oh, thank God. I would rather, if I'm going to pay to come in, I'd rather have a spot to sit in and watch the show. But now with multiple stages, man, there's something going on everywhere.
You can move around.
So
I
it's going
think
to be good.
I think that
It's gonna be
there's.
cool.
I'm hoping that what you're describing, there's like a hybrid now, where you're going to have people saving spots and bringing the blankets,
Yeah.
and you're going to have people buying chairs, and you have people that they just want to come in. They'll pay $5. They'll go sit up on the bluff. They'll walk around, and where else are you going to see
Yeah.
the music that I'm talking about for $5? Okay, you know what I mean. And so that I'm hoping that there is something for everybody, and every part of our local community can be there, to enjoy it.
It is, and here's the other thing too, because we don't really talk about it much. But for those people who are inclined, the VIP experience, second to nothing. Second to nothing. There's a level for everybody. And the other wonderful, engaging thing about it is this is all kind of connected to downtown Clearwater. So basically, you're coming down Cleveland and you're moving right into the whole thing that's going on. Clearwater Jazz Holiday is absolutely a Tampa Bay premier event.
Yeah.
It is its own animal and it does its own thing. That's why people come from across the pond to be with us.
Yeah.
That's why they drive in, fly in, show up, and make that that's a destination event without a doubt.
Let me ask this. I know that I guess we've shifted gears and Ruth Eckerd is not part of this year, right?
Right.
Okay, so is there an after party somewhere? Is there an after? So in years past, remember we used to go to the Lobster Pot
Yeah.
Yep.
after the show.
We had the Capitol Theater for a few years too on
Right.
Friday night.
And,
Yeah.
and afterwards, like the one that sticks out for me that was just, just as good as the concert, the event was that night we were there with Mindy a Bear.
Oh yeah,
Remember?
Yeah.
I mean, that was just, and
And Mindy's great.
it was a small, intimate spot. There was maybe 150 people there at best. And
Well, I'll tell you what. This thing that we're
Right there.
developing down at Nash Keys, which is a block away from the park,
okay,
is the coolest spot. It's kind of like a nightclub feel. Table rounds, dim lights, brick wall, 2 pianos on stage, drum kit. It's teed up already for
to be the after
to
party.
be, you know what I mean? So we're talking, and it's comment a little bit because you mentioned Ruth Eckerd. I mean, the sound is an amazing facility for downtown Clearwater. I mean, it's beautiful, and I'm excited about what it means. In experimenting with it, at least for right now, with all these things we're talking about, it doesn't quite feel like us, and it's expensive for us. And so that's hence the back to our roots. We think that's the better feel for what our tradition is right now. There may come a time where we reintegrate that again, but right now is not that time,
Right.
For us.
Yep.
And so I just wanted to, talk about that a little bit because some people have asked, well, we just built that beautiful new facility, the city, meaning built that beautiful new facility. But we tried it. We tried it out in 2023, which is our first year back from the ballpark. It was at the time when Ruth Eckerd, who manages the facility, is also getting their feet wet with their first opportunity to run it. And so when you bring a festival setting into a performing arts facility with our own volunteer force and people and different food and beverage considerations, and it was almost like too much too soon,
Right.
almost like type of thing. So there may be a time when that feels better or we grow into it, but that's 4,000 seats.
Yeah.
And that's a lawn area where there's some restrictions on what you can bring in, and it's not us, right? It doesn't feel like us.
No.
So we'll see how that plays out in the future years. But right now, our investment is in back to our roots and reclaiming what's more familiar and hoping beyond hope that there's some traction to that.
Mm-hmm.
And if there isn't, we do what we always do, which is pivoting and reassessing partnerships and types of things like that. So all that kind of feeds into, is there an after party at the Capitol Theater or something like that? Yeah. There could be. They may have it programmed during that, but I almost like the rawness of walking down and walking into this club, and then all of a sudden you're like, it's
whoa, yeah.
The big thing about that weekend, okay, it's not just the performers, but it's who's in town.
Yeah.
Right. So when you go to an after party, we call it, right? An after event, that's one of those things where you never know who's going to show up.
Yeah.
You don't know who's going to be walking in and just saying hi, and they're going to go sit in somewhere. You know, I was so blessed to have the friendships that I made where Bourbon Street really was a hub that people just came
It's
to.
awesome.
You know,
It's
I'm
awesome.
sitting in my office and, you know, hey, do you know who's out there right now? And I'd be like, no. You know, and sure enough, I look at the camera and I'm like, whoa, you know, I'd run out there.
But Fox was the same way, because you remember we
Yes.
had the front room,
Yes.
and then we had the back room with the baby grand piano.
And
And our place was where all the musicians, when they were done playing, wherever they
where
were,
they came.
they would wind up coming over to the Fox, and then we'd make sure that
And they'd
there was
sit in
always
and
bar
play
service
for
for
another
them or
hour.
whatever. Yeah, and this is like long after the crowd is gone.
Yeah.
You know, it's just the musicians sitting back there, swapping stories, experiences, and just playing. You know, just doing what they do, and
No, that's
is
awesome.
that's a wonderful.
Clearwater Jazz
Experience.
always had the most epic
Oh yeah,
after
Yeah.
parties.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that
Yeah,
too, you know.
we'll get back to it. I mean, you know, so much time and energy is invested into just pulling this off, the race to the fundraising, the infrastructure, execution. The after party always, to me, it's always like, we doing an after party?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It gets thrown together that night.
And so I have no doubt that it will all come back. You
It'll
know what I
all
mean?
come back.
It will all come back. It's just the time and
That night
circumstances.
that Mindy Bear played at Capitol Theater, I don't think that was planned until
No,
that
not-
day.
It
really was like, hey, come on.
As we're advancing the shows, we talk about things that are popping up. So if something popped up at like Nash Keys or whatever, hey, would you consider? You know, it's not, they're not contractually obligated to come
Right.
do this, but it's all about the courtship, the
Yeah.
experience, if they're feeling it, how'd their set go? It'd be like, hey, we got a car for you, you know, or a golf cart, we'll take you right down there, and then boom. And then if you have, the coolness of it is like, you got all of us, you got the volunteers running over after they clean everything up, you know, people rolling in, you've got the young musicians that are there, and then all of a sudden the magic that
It
you're talking
does.
about.
It
And
does.
you say, hey, college student or home from wherever steps onto that stage and
Yeah.
sits down, and all of a sudden someone from the stage, any of our stages, sits up, and holy cow,
There
you
it
have
is.
a moment,
You
and it's
do.
just, there's nothing
do.
like it.
It's amazing. And yeah, I think that's the one thing about going back to our roots. This is about Clearwater Jazz identity. It really is. Not just for ourselves, but to the community. Because this organization has had not only roots, but an identity and a genuine meaning to the Tampa Bay area. It really has.
Right.
So this is only proper
Well,
that we're doing it this way.
I will tell you this. You might like this. And if I ever get the opportunity to display, I will. But so remember, I told you I went when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And then later on, I went because I wanted to, right? Went family because I got dragged, went because I wanted to. Well, one year, they had a poster. And I thought, that's a cool poster. So I bought it. And the next year I went, and I was like, well, I got last year's poster. Let's check out this year's poster. And then one year the guy says, hey, you can buy all of the previous posters. Well, at that time, back in 1988, it was easy to collect 7 or 6 of them, right?
Yeah.
With the exception of the last 2 years, I have all the Clearwater
all
Jazz posters.
That's awesome.
I
love
mean,
hearing
my
stories
favorite
like
is
that.
obviously the crab on the piano.
Yeah.
That's the classic, the OG, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
But, you know,
His wife thinks he's out of his
so,
gourd.
now here's funny thing. So, you know, when we moved out of our one house and moved to another, and we have this big thing with all the rolls. My wife's like, oh, come on, what is this? I said, you're starting to sound like my ex-wife. She says, you weren't married. I said, exactly. Exactly. Those aren't going nowhere. They will eventually go into frames that all match and then end up on a wall. But the problem is as y'all keep growing every year, I keep getting more posters.
Yeah.
So it's
Thank
never
you for that.
It's never gonna end.
I love hearing stories like that.
But I do have them all.
I've been told that our house will not become the museum, but you know, and I'm like, because I'm the same way. I love everything, and just being involved, just the memorabilia that, you know, I can collect over the years from artists that I love that we're bringing to sign something or take a picture or something like that. It's for me, those little things are like the culmination of everything we're talking
Absolutely.
about. When you have a momentum, you look back and you're like, man, that year was crazy.
Yeah.
You know, this is what happened that year. There's just like so many
I think,
stories.
yeah, there are.
There's so many stories.
And it's always for us, what's it going to be this year? There's
Yeah.
always something that happens every year, and we can never anticipate what that's going to be. And every year has its own branding of this was it for this year.
So what do we have coming up between now and October?
Two great events. Well, first of all, the weekly Jazz Jam, Nash Keys, downtown Clearwater, 6 to 10. The first hour of that is a house set, and then from 7 to 10 is the jam. You literally sign it up on the piano. There's a sign up. So come out to that. That's awesome.
That's a great time.
And Nash Keys is where?
It's downtown Clearwater on Cleveland Street.
On Cleveland
Yeah,
Street.
not far from where the festival is, not far from the Capitol Theater and all that. It's right there in the mix of
And
things.
they've got great food.
Yeah.
And of course, there's libations always.
Get the loaded tater tots. Loaded tater tots, I'm saying.
Okay.
So August 22nd is our next Clearwater Jazz Holiday Presents event at the Palladium Theater. It's got two components to it. There is a VIP pre-show, which I believe is
Side
sold
door.
out in the
Mhm.
side door. And then in the main hall, there's a main show. The side door is Pete Carney, who will be at Jazz Holiday this year with the jazz students doing the Santana Soulfire tribute. That features James Suggs and Peter Mangaya on guitar. But the main show is Vincent Ingala, who's an incredible
And a good friend.
smooth jazz saxophone player, great band, just so fun. Every year at this event, it's kind of got a smooth jazz vibe to it, because we've had Darius, BK.
Yeah.
We did like a world thing last year with it.
What was the drum?
Tito Puente.
Tito Puente.
And so
Yeah.
we have Vincent Ingala this year. In September, we're at the Rooftop Concert Series at Ebby's Bar and Bistro on the Hampton Inn and Suites on Clearwater Beach overlooking the Intercoastal. And that's Ronnie D and the Superstars are going to be at that, and a great Young Lions opening set. And then we got Jazz Holiday. There are some other CJH presents at the end of the year, because we're going to be back in Station Square Park, but those are the two before Jazz Holiday, two remaining.
It's a lot.
One of the things you had just mentioned, the legacy kind of aspect of this, at our summer jam at the Largo Performing Arts Center, Central Park Performing Arts Center in July, we had like 18 jazz musicians, heavy hitters from the Bay Area on the same stage. It was a beautiful event, and Belinda Womack and Fred Johnson, in the moment, did a Jazz Holiday improvised tribute with a bunch of participating musicians. And in the middle of it, Belinda had the sense to bring up a lot of the Young Lions that had been performing in side areas onto the stage. And it was like they created a poem set to music of what would the world be without Clearwater Jazz Holiday. It's up on our YouTube channel now, but it's like 12 minutes long, and it encapsulates like everything we're talking about, because Fred and Belinda have been over the years like part of Jazz Holiday in a lot of different ways. And I think they were just caught up in what it is. You know, we're here celebrating this, and we're, sponsors that help the outreach and all the stuff. And they just made this up. So check that out if you haven't. It's on the YouTube channel. And there's a lot of clips on Facebook and social media, like these reels of the vibe at these events and about the outreach and the Jazz Jam. So if you check it out, you'll get a visual depiction of what these are about.
I actually missed that weekend. I was out of town, and he invited me over to Largo.
I tried.
And then, of course, afterwards, I had to hear about that.
Yeah. Well, there's going to be many more, my
always
friend.
miss out.
Well, we got to get him back so he can
I
photography with media, and it's a 4-day event, not a
I
weekend.
know.
4 days.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
I mean, it's a commitment. I know, you've done it, but
Many years.
Look, doors open, man. You want
I
in?
know.
You want in? Come join us and hang. But yeah, those
I'll
are the
be
next
there
two
this year.
events.
I'll be there this year.
Rock on.
It was there was some confusion back in the day when Morris and Sheila when they came in and they took the stage. I was on the side of the stage where the soundboard was to the right side.
Right.
And I mean, it was an amazing show. I mean, it was just one of those nights, but the media trailer where we were was a little disarrayed that night, I think.
I love hearing the media stories. It's always
it was fun. And okay, so one of the things, like I said, it's the same people that always volunteered every year after year after year. And there was quite a few of those ladies, some of the photographers that I didn't see all year long. And then I'd show up and it was, hey, it was like a homecoming every year to go out and do that. And it was, we were a little family,
Yeah,
every year for
absolutely.
however many years, it was a great setup. But that last
Yeah.
year was,
Well, hopefully
Little bit much.
hopefully we get back to it. I know there's a lot of people coming back, that will be part of the media, and we'll see.
Yeah.
Hey, we rely on that because that's how we tell the story of what's happening.
Absolutely.
Particularly,
Yeah.
I would argue that media is more important this year than it ever has been, because we're trying to now capture whatever we do in hopes that it is sustainable. And so the pictures of the side stages, the new setup, the new experiences
Yep.
is going to be so much more important, not just of the people on the stage.
Right.
You know what I mean? So media is huge this year. Yeah.
It's going to be a thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us, what do you want people to walk away with? What knowledge do you want them to walk away with about Clearwater Jazz Holiday this year and the years to come? What is
I
the
think-
message?
I think the message is just know that when you are attending a Clearwater Jazz Holiday event, whether it's the festival or these CJH Presents events, that you are part of something and supporting much more than the event itself. You are supporting a cultural impact that many people are investing in. Our board, the Jazz Force partners, volunteers, and they believe in the transformative power of music, of live music, and of music education. And that's being manifested in a whole bunch of beautiful ways right now. And so when you come and you buy a ticket, or you sponsor, or even if you volunteer, you are part of something that is really making a difference. And we appreciate that so much.
that right there is the clip.
Right.
We will have to clip that.
Yeah.
Is that thing rolling?
Yeah. No, it really, what you said is dead on. You're supporting something way bigger
Absolutely.
than just a concert.
Well,
Which is
on a
awesome.
personal note, or on a professional note, it's honest to God been a privilege to be a part of the Clearwater Jazz Holiday family, but it has also been an absolute honor to do that with leadership in the guise of this man right here. It has been incredible, and I would be remiss in my duties if I did not mention our operations officer, that would be Gary Hallis, and then, of course, Deb. These people make it possible for us to do the things that we do. The board might put it in, this is where we want to go and this is how we want to do it, but it takes all of those people to make sure that we meet those goals and we arrive at those destinations.
Yeah, Deb, that's nice. It's nice that I think Deb Flournoy, our operations manager, works really hard in
Yes.
executing all these things. And then Gary, who's our longtime marketing and operations consultant, is the greatest guy. And he, it's a small
Can
staff,
and will do.
but they care a lot. And they started like me as not, well, at least Deb, she was a volunteer in artist hospitality, and now she works for the organization in many ways similar to my story and to many of our stories. Everyone's got something.
Artist hospitality.
Yes.
It's a good place to be.
No, it's not. So when I had Bourbon Street, I remember telling you this nonsense. You get the rider.
Oh,
These are the things you have to have, right? So I would have a lot of the guys from the 80s coming through, right? A lot of the hair bands. And, back in the day, they were known for trashing hotels, wrecking green rooms. Now they come through and on their rider is chicken, Evian water, like they have to have, Caesar salad. They're all on
Gotta love a
diabetes.
rider.
They all have diabetes now. Half of them are sober. They can't drink, so it's decent. But, you get this rider and you have all this stuff that you have to have. It has to be there. And if it's not, sometimes they pitch a little fit, like you got the memo, it was supposed to be here. But then you get, and I was corrected, you're not allowed to call them groupies. They are called Band-Aids now, right? But you get these girls that would show up with trays of lasagna and all their food that they like, and all the stuff that I would have to buy for the artists just gets stuck on the side while they eat the lasagna and drink all the drinks they're not supposed to have. And I'm like, man.
Well, look, we say we're a nonprofit organization in a festival setting, and all these riders are the same for whether you're going to a performing arts center or a festival or whatever. So we do our best. We have great VIP catering
Yes,
on
we
site.
do.
No, catering is awesome.
We can never deliver all the things that are asked because you just
Well,
can't.
like you say, it's festival. So you guys say, okay, here's what's being provided.
Here's what we have.
Yeah, no,
How can we make your experience more enjoyable? And you do. It's all about communication and expectations. If you get ahead of it, then everyone knows what's there by the time they arrive.
Yeah.
But they all have a good time. They all have a good experience. And there are musicians out there who, because I get around, I do a lot of these other things. I've got musicians who literally walk up to me and go, so how do I get into Clearwater Jazz?
How do I get in? Yeah,
Okay. And that's usually what after whatever thing I'm doing, I pick up the phone, I call Steve and said, I talked to this one today. And they want to know, and usually, I mean, these are top tier musicians and what have you. So Clearwater Jazz Holiday is not just a destination for the people who come and enjoy it. It's also a destination for the people, for those artists.
And we want to, we want to be a stage for everybody. And I think the side stages are helping with that.
Yeah.
I wish we had more stages, but that's a good problem to have.
It is.
And we absolutely want everybody to come.
And then I know this will be cool, but are you going to have where a main headliner that is playing the main stage at 8 p.m., but he's there hanging out, enjoying the day? Is he going to go pop in on a side stage?
Oh, I hope. I mean, a lot of them will get there early in the day because they'll do sound checks and they'll be back. We have RVs and stuff like that for them to chill and hang. And so my strong hope is that they will be interested in that and they'll walk over. And you never know what happens. I mean, we have had some really cool collaborations over time. They have been mostly on the main stage because we've only had the main stage.
Yeah, right.
But like that year with Mindy and Buddy Guy.
Buddy Guy, yeah,
super
that
cool.
was incredible.
And none of that is scripted, you know what I mean? That is just about, can you create the atmosphere? Once they're there, you can talk about the mission, all of these things, and then you hope that they get it.
It's all organic.
And they'll be like,
it really is.
that sounds good. I'm going to listen to that. And then you just look at, you're like doing a double take, like,
You let it happen, baby.
is that?
Yeah.
That'd
be awesome if it happens.
Yeah, it would be. Let's make it happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's easy to do.
Well, I really appreciate this, guys. It's been
We
fun.
appreciate it. Thanks a
Awesome.
lot. I'm glad that you
Thanks
decided
for joining
to come out
us.
and doing that. Absolutely.
Look forward to year 46 with you both.
46.
46.
46.
Get you another poster
Good God.
for that wall.
46
Mhm.
years.
Let's go.
All right. Anthony, Mayhem Local Live.
Mark, Mayhem Local Live.
We'll
We'll
see y'all.
see you at Jazz Holiday.
Yeah, we'll see y'all.